Welcome back to Dave's Garage. Today we're going to be looking at a improvement to the skid plate, the T-Rex Racing heavy duty skid plate that I have and that I promote as being one of the best designs out there, if not the best design. The reason is it doesn't touch or doesn't contact the oil pan, the aluminum, what I would consider fragile oil pan. It doesn't attach anything to it. But it's pretty inclusive, as far as design. It's larger than most of them, and with that comes the issue of trying to do an oil change without removing the oil pan or the skid plate. The skid plate does have a couple provisions where inside the skid plate you can see the oil drain bolt. But it's way up kind of in there. But this opening is provided, so if you take that out, you're going to have oil draining inside your skid plate. Same way up front, where you have the provided porthole, which I've got open. Right, here's the cover for it. But the porthole, you can see the oil filter right there. But the oil would run down the front of the engine onto the oil pan. And the oil pan slopes to the rear of the bike with those fins on it for probably cooling. So with that slope, you're going to end up with oil all inside your skid plate. So today, I'm going to attempt to add a couple of Amazon purchases. Why not? Make it so hopefully I don't drop any or lose any oil inside the skid plate. The first one is something from a company called Fumoto. And it's an engine oil drain valve. I did some digging to find a way to make this work, to find something that would work. But this part number is F as in Frank, 139N as in Nancy, and it's for an M12 bolt replacement. And the thread pitch is what I really had to go digging for, and I'm not really 100% sure that I've got this right. But this little guy here is a drain valve, and it comes with this little black clip on it, but it's just a little lever on the side, here on the side that rotates 90 degrees. It's just a ball valve in there. So this little drain valve will remain on the crankcase or on the oil pan on the Versys X300, and then just adding a little tube, which I just happen to have some of the stuff around here from a little hand pump. Add a little tube, so it just allows the oil to only come out through this tube into your oil pan. It should be dripless. Let's see how that works. The other part of it is this here is an Amazon purchase. It comes with several pieces. It's for a Harley. Now the Harley must have some kind of open side pan that they deal with oil changes or the filter. We don't need that. This is just a convenience. It's a nice tall filter to pour the fresh oil into the Versys crankcase, so I thought this has merit. So I thought I just need something that's going to do the job better. But this here is the gem. This is a little trough that will go up next to the oil pan, or excuse me, the oil filter, and then have a slope to it. And this by itself, I don't think is gonna quite do it. I've been experimenting a little bit with this. The gap or the crack between this little trough and the crankcase still exists. So what I'm planning on doing is putting a little bit of duct tape on there. You can maybe see the residue on here. I've been kind of just toying with the idea. I think just a little bit of duct tape onto the crankcase, onto the oil pan, and then onto this trough, where then the oil is directed out through this hole in the bottom. So I think this will work. Just a little bit of duct tape action. I mean, the old saying goes, if you can't fix it with duct tape, you're in trouble. So I've gone ahead and used a little bit of duct tape, and it looks like the concept is going to work. The little trough here is just held on with the duct tape. The duct tape is pressed up against the crankcase and oil pan, like in a V shape. So any oil coming out of that oil filter, which there will be some, should come right down the trough and land in my oil pan. So I got everything in place. I got the oil filter loosened with the use of my oil pliers here. These work great for this Versys X300. So we just got it loosened up. I'm going to go in here, see how much craziness I can cause. And it's coming off. And here comes the oil. It's coming down the trough and into the pan. Oh, this looks like it's promising. Ooh, the filter's off. Okay. And there's actually quite a bit of oil that comes out. The new filter's on. I just put that on there. And when I pulled that little plastic orange trough off, it worked out. I mean, the duct tape is what does the sealing around it. Without that, you're going to end up with oil running down on your oil pan and down those fins all the way to the back of the engine, all inside the skid plate. So anyways, it may seem like I'm doing this a little out of sequence, which is true, because if this failed, then I'd have oil all inside the oil pan or inside the skid plate, and I wouldn't want to have to take the skid plate off a second time. I have to take the skid plate off once in order to get that drain valve on there. So that's going to be next. I'm going to go ahead and take the skid plate off and put the drain valve on. That will lose all the oil, of course, in the crankcase. And then to prove it out, this oil in here doesn't have very many miles on it, so I'm going to go ahead and just put it back in with the drain valve on. So that's kind of like the sequence I'm going to do. The skid plate's off. On this T-Rex Racing Heavy Duty, there's 4 M8 button head Allen 5mm bolts that bolt onto there's 2 on each side. What makes my my skid plate a little more involved is this is from an earlier mod where I've put in 2 2-inch angle irons that go back to the 2 bolts for the frame and the center stand. So that's a M10s. Those have to come out. So that's another reason why I'm finding a source here, or finding a way to do the oil change without taking all that off. So here's the drain plug, or drain bolt, and it's in plain sight once you get the skid plate off. Next step, we're going to install the drain pan valve. Now I've got the drain pan valve in, and I've got my little short tube attached to it. I went ahead and reinserted just some of the oil, 80% of it, into the crankcase, into the oil pan. And now we're going to see just how this is going to work. I do understand that the hole coming out is restricted, so the flow is going to be less than there would be in a normal oil draining sequence. But this thing here has got a little plastic clip you take off first. That should be able to be reached while the skid plate's on. And then you just take your finger and move this little lever. I hope you can see this. Move it up and then move it over. And out comes the oil. It's definitely a drizzle instead of a flow. Probably suggest get it started and walk away, go do something else, which I'm going to do. And I'll be back. I'm going to let this thing drain out for a while here and just see what it takes. This looks like it's probably a 10-minute drain sequence. I now have the skid plate back on the Versys X300, and I've got the oil pan drain valve installed with its little retaining plastic clip. It's like a double insurance to not allow that little rotation of the ball valve and that little lever that sticks out. And I still have this opened up down here because we're going to leave this all open because I'm going to be starting the bike up, and we're going to be checking for some leaks. And I'll probably let the bike come all the way up to full temp So that's coming up. But for right now, what I want to do is see if I can make this work. So I'm going to reach in. My light is in the way. Reach in. There's my little retaining clip. That's now off. We are going to attach the little piece of 3/8 inch tubing to the Fumoto valve, and we're gonna, it's kind of already kind of got a kink in, or you know, a bend in it, so we're good. Now, I don't know if you can see my finger in there or not. This is kind of rude, but anyways, we're going to lift up on that and rotate, and out comes the oil. So the concept has been proven. The last time I drained it, I had pretty much 80% or so of all the oil back in the bike, and unfortunately I wasn't paying attention to see just how long it would take. There was a couple of issues with this. A, it's going to take longer than just your drain bolt. That's a given. And then B, this bike is stone cold. We had some pretty cold temperatures overnight. So this oil you see draining here has been subjected to upper 40s Fahrenheit. So it got cold. So this oil is cold. And what I'll do is, you know, warm the bike up here with fresh oil, and then I might just sample a little bit out of here just to see what difference it makes. I'll be using Kawasaki's genuine 10W40 full stroke engine, full synthetic. I think this is either the first or second time now I've used this. I kind of bounce around. I've tried different oils. Valvoline full synthetic seems to do okay. I've had one other brand in this bike and I can't quite remember. I have some Mobil 1 on the shelf. I have a couple other brands, you know, just kind of on deck. So anyways, I'm sticking with full synthetic. I think if you go with a good brand, Valvoline is common here. Mobil 1 I can find online, but I don't know if I can find it here locally. And then this Kawasaki is either dealership at ridiculous cost, or I think I've got this. I think this was an Amazon purchase. So there we go. We're going to let this all drain out again, let it drain dry. And we're going to try to warm it up, check for leaks, and go from there. That'll be probably the last installment, or maybe 2 more installments on this video. I'm right at 16 ounces left in here, 2.5 quarts. And I found that these Versys X300s take a little bit more than 2.5. I think the spec is like 2.3 quarts, but that doesn't get you to the halfway between the upper and lower marks on the sight glass. So we're going to fire this up, check for some leaks. And let's see what we got here. No leaks down here by the filter. I got a little bit of oil there, but I think it might have been just from the oil change. I don't know, I might have a leak. I'll investigate here and get back with you. I think I figured out why I believe to have had a oil leak, and there isn't an oil leak. What happened was the bike leans the other way, away from the drain valve here, so that kept oil in this little, like 3/4 of an inch tube. So once I figured that out, and I believe I've got all the oil out of that little tube now, and I'm rechecking underneath the drain valve. the rag is coming out completely dry, and that was the source of the oil. Just remember that you have to kind of tilt the bike in this direction to let the little bit of oil that's in there out. Next time I'll obviously be using probably my center stand, and that'll help, you know, suffice some of it at least. But you just really need to get that oil out of that little tube. Bike's warming up. Things are looking okay. She's up at temp. I'm gonna just adjust the oil level, and I think it's time for a test drive. We'll do a little recap here. The equipment and stuff that I've used or bought. The little engine oil drain valve, again, is from Fumoto. The other one was this whole set, minus this little hose here. It's a 3/8 hose I just happen to have. So this is fairly inexpensive mod. The funnels and the little trough, that was cheap. That was like $13.99, I think, on Amazon. You get the whole set. The little Fumoto drain valve, that was a little more expensive. I think that was like $29. But it's the reviews are excellent. You know, it's a very quality unit. It's a ball valve, so there's, you know, it's very, very tightly fit. So there's our recap. I'm gonna go for a test drive. Time to get the Versys on the road. From Dave's Garage, signing off. See you on the next one.